On his deathbed, with his children gathered around him, Ekon spoke in a voice as soft as a whisper, yet as powerful as thunder. "My children," he said, "I have lived my life in service to you and to this village. I have watched you grow, and I am proud of each one of you. But before I depart, I must give you 7 promises. These promises will guide you, and if you follow them, peace and prosperity will remain in our village for generations. If any of you fails to uphold these promises, great harm will fall upon you and the people you love." The children listened attentively. In a faraway village nestled at the foot of the great Mount Aya, there lived a wise and generous man named Ekon. He was known across the land for his deep understanding of life, the natural world, and the ways of the ancestors. Ekon was a man of great wisdom, and his heart was as large as the river that flowed through the village. He helped anyone in need, shared his food with the hungry, and offered guidance to the troubled. People came from all around just to hear him speak, for his words were like the rain, gentle but nourishing. Ekon had 7 children, each of whom was gifted with unique talents. His firstborn, Kofi, was known for his strength and leadership. His second child, Afia, was a kind woman with a heart full of compassion. The third, Kwame, was a clever and sharp-minded youth, often found reading the old scrolls of the ancestors. The fourth, Amma, was a gifted healer, and her hands could soothe the sick and the wounded. The fifth, Ya, was a warrior with unparalleled skill, a protector of her people. The sixth, Kojo, was an artist, capturing the beauty of the world with his paintings. And the seventh, Esi, was the youngest, a curious child who loved to learn from her older siblings. As the years went by, Ekon's health began to decline. The villagers could sense the approaching end of an era, and everyone gathered around to show their respect and gratitude for the great man who had shaped their lives. On his deathbed, with his children gathered around him, Ekon spoke in a voice as soft as a whisper, yet as powerful as thunder. "My children," he said, "I have lived my life in service to you and to this village. I have watched you grow, and I am proud of each one of you. But before I depart, I must give you 7 promises. These promises will guide you, and if you follow them, peace and prosperity will remain in our village for generations. If any of you fails to uphold these promises, great harm will fall upon you and the people you love." The children listened attentively, for they knew that their father's words were not to be taken lightly. Ekon raised his trembling hand and spoke his first promise. "Promise me, Kofi, that you will never use your strength to oppress others. Strength is meant to protect, not to dominate. Use your power wisely and justly." Kofi, who was already known as a leader among the villagers, nodded solemnly. He had always strived to protect his people, and he promised to honor his father's words. Ekon's gaze shifted to Afia, the second-born. "Afia, promise me that you will always show kindness to those who are weaker than you. Compassion is a great gift, and it will heal wounds that strength cannot. Never turn away someone in need." Afia, with her heart as pure as gold, placed her hand on her chest and promised to uphold her father's wish. Then, Ekon turned his eyes to Kwame, his third-born son, who was deep in thought. "Kwame, promise me that you will never use your wisdom to deceive or manipulate others. Knowledge is a gift, but it must be used to enlighten, not to control. Let truth be your guiding light." Kwame nodded thoughtfully, agreeing to honor his father's words. Ekon spoke to Amma, his fourth child. "Amma, promise me that you will always use your healing hands for good. Do not let your knowledge of the body and spirit be used for selfish purposes. May you bring comfort to all, regardless of their status." Amma, ever humble, pledged to follow her father's guidance. "Yeah, promise me that you will always fight for justice and defend the innocent. Your strength is a weapon, but let it be used only in service of righteousness, never for personal gain." "Yeah, fierce and brave," raised her hand in agreement. Then, Ekon turned to Kojo, his sixth child. "Kojo, promise me that you will never let your art be corrupted by greed or fame. Use your talent to capture the beauty of the world and to remind people of the goodness in their hearts." Kojo, who had always found joy in painting the world's beauty, vowed to keep his father's promise. Finally, Ekon's gaze rested on little Esi, his youngest child. "Esi, promise me that you will never stop seeking knowledge and understanding. Let your curiosity lead you on a path of wisdom, and may your heart always be open to the lessons life has to offer." Esi, though young, looked into her father's eyes with a deep sense of purpose and made her vow. With a sigh of contentment, Ekon closed his eyes for the last time. His children, though heartbroken, knew that they had a great responsibility ahead of them. They left his side, each carrying with them the 7 promises that would shape their lives and the future of the village. The first years after Ekon's death were peaceful. Kofi led with strength and fairness. Afia healed the sick. Amma cared for the wounded. Ya protected the village. Kojo painted beautiful murals, and Esi sought knowledge. But over time, 2 of the children began to falter. Kofi, the eldest, became more and more proud of his strength. He began to see himself as above others, using his power to intimidate and control those who disagreed with him. He demanded respect from the villagers and treated them with harshness, forgetting his father's promise. His once noble strength became a weapon of oppression. Kwame, the 3rd child, had always been clever, but as time went on, his thirst for knowledge grew into arrogance. He began to use his wisdom to manipulate the villagers, spreading false teachings to gain power and influence. He twisted the words of the ancestors for his own gain, deceiving the people and leading them astray. The village, once peaceful and prosperous, began to suffer. The people grew discontented, and whispers of rebellion filled the air. The crops began to fail, and the river, once full and clear, dried up. The villagers blamed the failures on the actions of Kofi and Kwame, and tensions rose. One fateful day, the villagers gathered in the town square, demanding change. Kofi stood tall, his muscles rippling, but his heart was filled with doubt. He had lost the respect of the people, and no matter how hard he tried, he could not make them follow him with the same trust they once had. Kwame, too, found that his manipulation no longer worked. The people had begun to see through his lies, and they turned away from him. In their desperation, they turned to Afia, Amma, Ya, Kojo, and Esi, the remaining children of Ekon. Together, they worked tirelessly to restore peace. Afia's compassion soothed the troubled hearts of the villagers. Amma's healing touch restored the sick and injured. Ya stood as the village's protector, while Kojo painted murals to remind the people of their shared history and strength. Esi, with her sharp mind, uncovered the wisdom of their ancestors and shared it with all. Together, they confronted Kofi and Kwame, reminding them of their father's promises. With humility, Kofi and Kwame admitted their failures and sought forgiveness. They promised to change and to use their gifts to serve the village, not to control it. Slowly, peace was restored, and the village thrived once more. Years later, the story of Ekon and his 7 promises was passed down from generation to generation. The villagers knew that the wisdom of their father was not just in his words, but in the actions of his children. They learned that strength, wisdom, compassion, and justice must be balanced, and that the true leader is one who serves others, not one who rules with an iron fist. And so, the village prospered, and the memory of Ekon, the great man whose wisdom and generosity had shaped their lives, lived on in the hearts of all who followed his 7 promises.